Last fall, tens of thousands
CBS
of
Nightwatch,
Albanians
already
fleeing
in
poverty
progress.
and chaos in communist Albania piled onto ships and sailed to Italy. Albania's leaders let them go. So many refugees arrived in Italy at the same time, the Italians had no place to put them all. They had to sleep under plastic wrappers on the city's docks. That's the image that the Soviets conjure up, except next time they think of millions of Russians who, starting in 1993, will be free to emigrate. They can go wherever they please. If the Soviet economy has collapsed and there's no jobs, no food, where will they go? Tens of millions of Soviets could head west, the Russians say, and then Westerners would have to house them and feed them and find them jobs or try to keep them out. Either way, the costs of all those refugees would be huge. And then there's the political nightmare. What if the economy collapses and Gorbachev is replaced?
Здравствуйте, товарищи.
By, say, a general. A repressive, conservative, aggressive general. What then? If that happens, then the arms race starts again, troops have to be redeployed, missiles put back into place, defense budgets go up instead of down, and all the savings of ending the Cold War disappear. That would be expensive. And then in an interview, President Gorbachev's economic advisor, Yevgeny Primakov, mentioned the nuclear nightmare. There are nuclear bombs stored all over the Soviet Union at military sites. If an economic collapse triggers a civil war, republics fighting republics, what happens if that war goes nuclear? The consequences for the West, for the world, are frightening. Some Western leaders listening to Gorbachev and his aides complain this pitch sounds more like a mugging than a request for aid. Give me your money or else. So Western leaders have begun to add some conditions of their own. It's almost like they're saying, all right, you're sending us some nightmares, Mr. Gorbachev. How about us sending you a few? The U.S. Secretary of State, James Baker, said last week, before the United States will give Russia any money, Gorbachev had better close his eyes and imagine the defense cut nightmare. The Soviet Union is now spending about 1/4 of its income every year on defense. If you can't afford bread, should you be building tanks? The West wants big cuts in the Soviet Union's defense budget, and they mean big cuts. And that's just one of Secretary Baker's conditions. Next, he says the West is not going to extend aid to a country that forces its citizens to stay under Soviet rule. So Mr. Gorbachev had better face the shrinking nation nightmare. The Soviet Constitution, he says, must be changed to allow republics to leave the Union, even if that eventually means the eastern part of the USSR gets smaller and smaller. And then, said Secretary Baker, if the Soviet Union is so desperately poor, where does it find the money to support leaders like Fidel Castro? It's time Mr. Gorbachev faces the forget Fidel nightmare.
Hacía algún tiempo que no nos reuníamos.
The Soviet Union should tell Fidel Castro it could no longer give him the equivalent of $4.5 billion in aid every year. If Moscow wants money from America, Castro must be cut off, at least financially. How did Gorbachev react to these conditions? His top aide said they make no sense. How did Baker react to that? He said, I'm not sure $150 billion makes sense.
Robert Krulwich joins us from New York. Hello, Bob.
Hi. Well, the way it does look to me, it does look that this is sort of the opening rounds of any negotiation. Gorbachev, on the one hand, saying, if you don't give me the money, I can conjure up all these terrible things that will happen to you. And the West returning the favor by saying, well, before we will give you the money, we have to imagine, or have to ask you to imagine, terrible things that have to first happen to you. It's sort of a standoff when you begin any real talk about money.
Your whole piece reminds me of one word, chutzpah. I mean, first of all, Gorbachev coming in and saying, give it to me or else. And then we are saying, we, the Western nations with all the money, we'll give you something. We're not going to tell you how much, but you've got to do this, 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 and this. Is Gorbachev going to get any money when he meets with the leaders of the 7 richest nations in London?
I don't think they're going to let him come to London and be embarrassed, because all of these leaders, some to a greater degree than others, have a tremendous stake in his continuance. That threat of the second threat that Gorbachev threw their way. What about the Soviet Union without me is one that scares the people in the White House and the people on Downing Street and people all throughout the G7 group. So they will give him something. The real question is how much and when. They've already talked about a membership, kind of a membership in the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. But it's interesting to see how these threats play. Certainly the threat that the Russians are coming, this idea of a tidal wave of immigrants, has deeply affected the West, and you can almost measure it. The closer a Western nation is to that Soviet border on the West, the more likely they are, or enthusiastic they are, to kick up bucks for Gorbachev. You'll notice that the Germans in particular, who are the closest, are very anxious to be as generous as possible. The Chancellor of Germany is going to go to Kiev before the meeting to try to get Mr. Gorbachev ready so that he makes the best possible pitch. The farther you are away from that border, Japan and the United States and Canada, the more stingy you are. Because
and if you're Germany, you want to get everybody else to shovel in some money. You don't want to be left alone to deal with the problem.
In fairness, however, the Germans are kicking in quite a bit of their own. Similarly, I think, though, the soldiers in the Soviet Union, the high command, the KGB, the Interior Ministry, they certainly heard the threat coming at them from Secretary of State Baker. We're not giving you money unless you make drastic cuts in your military establishment. Very quickly after Baker made those remarks, in a closed session of the Supreme Soviet, the top brass of the military said to Gorbachev, don't make a deal with those people. They asked for his resignation and so on, and they put on a real pincer movement to go after Gorbachev out of real fear that a Gorbachev-Baker alliance would come out of their guts.
You have your checkbook out?
It's going to be, I think maybe I will be able to afford the amount of aid that he's going to get at the moment. He has to do, the most important thing that he has to do, he has to convince the Western leaders that he is making a serious commitment to a change from communism to capitalism. That he's going to adopt a plan that produces real prices, a convertible currency, private property, and all the rest. He has not done that. There is not a Western leader yet convinced that he will do that, and that's the key thing.
Nothing easy.
No.
Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome.
Stay with us for more of Nightwatch.
Why is the amazing microdiet being recommended by doctors all over Europe and now in the United States?
They've done 10,000 Holter monitoring of patients, and the safety simply stands up year after year, patient after patient.
I lost 105 pounds in 5.5 months. It came off so fast, it was like I didn't even realize I was losing it. It was great.
Safe, effective, patient compliancy is dramatic.
My first 3 weeks, I lost 22. My first month, I lost 28. I've now lost 65.
It tastes very good. There's variety. And what's important to a lot of my patients is that it's economical.
47 pounds in about 3 months, and that's almost 2 years ago.
I lost 18 pounds in the first 2 weeks.
I've lost 60 pounds.
I've lost 85 pounds.
I've lost 110 pounds.
And the success rate is absolutely overwhelming.
If a diet is rapid, people are going to see results right away, and they'll have the motivation to continue.
And I feel better than I've ever felt in my life.
My cravings have gone away. I eat more sensibly.
I lost 12 pounds in the first 2 weeks.
In a short period of time, I've lost an incredible amount of weight.
After 1 week and finding out how good it tastes, I knew this was a plan I could live with.
I've been able to throw away blood pressure medicines, lower my cholesterol.
My gosh, I'm on a diet, and I feel terrific.
It's been a literal lifesaver for me.
I like to eat, I eat what I want. And, but I keep the weight off with the microdiet.
And I know that I'm never going to have to go on a diet again.
You can afford this diet, and it will work for you.
Call now and save 35% on the weight loss plan proven around the world. You'll receive the full range of microdiet meals, plus the amazing microdiet book and Winning at Weight Loss video. Not available in stores. Call 1-800-872-8600 now and save over $20. Special price of $39.95 is available only through this television offer. Call 1-800-872-8600 or send check or money order now to this address. No CODs at this low price.
Depending on which way you look at it, Eugenia Zuckerman is either a flautist who writes novels or a novelist who plays the flute. Either way, she is most proficient at both of her professional callings. There's a third as well. She's also a correspondent covering classical music for the CBS News broadcast Sunday morning. And we've run a lot of those pieces on this program. Zuckerman performs more than 40 concerts a year, a schedule that takes her to all parts of the globe.
Eugenia Zuckerman has a new recording out. It's called Timepieces. She also has a new novel called Taking the Heat. And guess who's with us? Eugenia Zuckerman. Hello. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm taking the heat in Washington.
You know, we read these introductions, but what I really want to say about you to the audience is that you are a successful, pleasant, lovely, whole human being who is a woman and therefore a role model to all of us. And I hope for your children and to others who are younger. And maybe that's the most important thing that you've done with all of this success.
Well, if I am, I'm always surprised to hear that, because I think of myself as just another working mother, really. I think I've been enormously lucky, and I think that I'm very aware of that. There's so many women out there who have so many abilities, who are multi-abilitied. And I had a number of areas that I had some abilities in, and I've been lucky that I've had opportunities to be able to develop all those areas.
But you were able to grow, and you were able to really become a whole human being. And I can understand that. You had one life, and then that life came to an end, the curtain came down, and you brought all of the wonderful baggage from that life, 2 children, into another life. Are you a totally different human being?
I think I'm more the person I was before my first marriage. My first marriage gave me many wonderful things. I was married to Pinchas Zuckerman, one of the great musicians of our time, who taught me enormous amounts about music. We do have 2 fabulous daughters who are now 18 and 16. And Pinky and I traveled around the world and we made music together, so I gathered a great deal from that. But I feel more like I did at 18 now, in my new life. And my new life is that I'm married to David Seltzer, the writer-director, whose last film was Punchline, whose new film is Shining Through with Michael Douglas.
Hire you to be his publicist. Did you bring your daughters up in a different way than you were brought up in terms of what their goals and ambitions should be and how they should look at their lives and what they should want?
I think everyone in our generation brought their children up differently in that we spoke to them more freely. My mother's generation was not a generation that said, honey, I'm feeling unhappy today and it's not about you. They didn't talk that way. My mother did bring me up to feel that I had to have my own profession, that I had to be self-sufficient, and I have passed that on to my children because not only do I think it's important, I know it's important from personal experience.
You really have a continuing love affair with the flute.
I do. I really, as I get older, my love for music truly deepens. I find that not only is it solace for me, not only is it, as Edna St. Vincent Millay said, music my rampart and my only one. It's not only that, it's also a lifeline. And I don't know who said it, but there is a saying that music is a path between ourselves and the infinite. And for me, I am not a deeply religious person, but music somehow does lead me on a spiritual path.
And yet you also take a very solitary path in sitting down to write. Why writing?
Because I'm crazy. I think people who write, and who write novels in particular, don't do it because they want to. It's because I have to. I find that writing is a way of kind of synthesizing all experience, of refining it, of defining who I am. And I love the length of a novel. I love the freedom that it gives you to really express yourself and to be able to let a story unravel.
If you say that writing defines who you are, then much of what you write is autobiographical.
Not at all. I don't think you have to write about the actual events in your life to be able to define yourself. I think that we are many people, each of us. And when one writes fiction, one takes a number of characters and gives them a number of different characteristics, and many of those come from the writer themselves. I can say, if you ask me, as most people do, is this your life? It is so much less autobiographical than anything I have written, but there's so much more of me in it. I see myself in the character of Nora Waterman, who is the heroine, a married woman whose affair causes the destruction of her family. And I am also in the character of her friend, the violinist who goes around the world playing concerts, who is a much freer character.
Taking the heat. Who takes the heat?
Well, I had the title before I had the story. You know, taking the heat has always been something I think we women do. And that funny expression, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. I think it's really about taking responsibility for the things that we do. You take a step, you must pay for the consequences. And in contemporary life, I think that we see that people are not paying the consequences. I wanted to explore the idea of how do we actually pay for the things that we have done. And this woman's infidelity, which is one of the most common human mistakes, is something that sets in motion a kind of snowball. Everything that she cares about in her life disappears, including her beloved son. And then she has to find a way to recover herself. And this she does through her music and through a trip to Poland. Her mother was a Holocaust survivor who was a small child in Auschwitz and had many secrets about her past. And Nora, through a coincidence, gets a job, a musical job in Krakow, Poland, and explores who her mother was, and in that way sets herself free.
It's all about roots?
I think so.
We've just begun to talk. Stay with us. We have to take a break. We'll be right back.
For 46 lonely years, I had a secret. I could not read. But then I ordered the reading cassettes, hooked on phonics, and taught myself how to read without any help or embarrassment. In fact, after learning one 18-minute cassette, I was able to read a 120-page book. So if you or your child have a reading problem, order Hooked on Phonics and learn to read. I did.
Call 1-800-ABCDEFG.
They're America's exciting love lines. 3 great ways to meet by phone, and you can try them right now for free. For ladies' home phone numbers, call 1-900-646-0004. Try it free. To meet guys and gals, call 1-900-646-0005. Try it free. For dream dates, call 1-900-646-0006. Try it free. Try all 3 for free. They're America's exciting $15 love lines with the first minute free. Write these numbers down and try them now. Try them all. Try them absolutely free. Adults only.
For those of you who have been reluctant to wear a hearing aid, Miracle Ear has more great news. If you have trouble hearing in noisy situations, the exciting Miracle Ear Clarifier may be your answer. The Clarifier features a special filter that automatically reduces background noise.
In a restaurant situation, it picks up the noises I want to hear, but the other noises are just moved off into the background.
If you or someone you know thinks they may be suffering from hearing loss, call Miracle Ear at this number and receive helpful information.
It really makes a lot of difference in your way of hearing and in your way of life.
Call this number. Miracle Ear will send you a booklet on better hearing, plus a coupon for a free hearing test. Call today. Learn about all the good news from Miracle Ear.
A lot of people don't even know you got it, especially the one I got, the design that I got.
Call this number. Find out if Miracle Ear can help you.
Hello again. We're talking to Eugenia Zuckerman. You had the title of the book, Taking the Heat, before you had the idea. That's very strange.
Well, not the idea, the actual story. I'm not a writer who sits down and makes an outline. I know that that would be the clever way to write something. But I have found that I have to kind of do a lot of pounding away to figure out what it is that I'm trying to say. And I know that I was halfway through this book before I really understood which direction I wanted to go in. So I do a lot of drafts.
There's something back here that you try to get out and you're not sure what's back here. There are these ideas mulling around.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take to write, how long did it take you to write this novel?
Well, this novel I started in Flagstaff, Arizona, where I was playing with the Flagstaff Symphony, and it just started pouring out of me. It took 9 months. My first book took me 4 years to complete a first draft. This took me 9 months, and then, of course, the rewriting took a year or more than that, but it just flowed.
Is writing difficult?
Sometimes enormously difficult, painful, fills me with angst, and sometimes it is a tremendous high.
Some of what you do must be very structured because you have commitments, you have performances, but all of it is your choice. You choose to perform with a symphony. You choose to go to Flagstaff.
In a way, yes, but in a way, one is asked to come and do these performances. And so there are givens in my life, which means that life really does lack an essential spontaneity, which is, I know where I will be February 7th, 1992.
Like it or not.
Like it or not. And there is no way that a classical musician will cancel. I mean, unless you're deathly ill. And I think I've canceled maybe 1 or 2 concerts in my entire career. You just have these commitments, and you simply are not going to get up on the stage and say, well, I'll play it for you, but it's not really ready. You don't do that. And so whatever spontaneity I can have in my life, I really cherish.
Is it hard to be away from your family, away from your children? Well, was it hard, particularly when they were young, to perform?
It was terrible. It was just awful. And I used to have to go through my litany. I would say to my girls, Mommy goes away because she's done this all her life and prepared for it, and I make my living this way, and people seem to enjoy it, and I have to. I wouldn't be such a good mother. And when I had great difficulty at the end of my first marriage, I remember saying to my daughters, who were then 8 and 10, I won't be able to play concerts anymore. And they both said to me, Mommy, you have to. You've prepared all your life for this. You enjoy it. You're a better mommy. So they are now. In fact, I often get a great kick of taking one or both of them off with me because they really understand what it is now to perform.
Are they musicians?
They are. My big girl, who just finished her freshman year at Brown University, seems to be headed for a career as an opera singer.
How do you feel about that?
Excited and thrilled for her because she's so excited. It's so wonderful when your child listens to some music and says it's the most heavenly music in the world, and she loves it. And I think it's wonderful for a child to find their passion. That's all we can hope for. And my younger daughter is a wonderful guitarist, and she's painting now and a terrific writer. And I think they're both doomed for a life in the arts.
Why did you add television on top of the very, very busy life? What is it about appearing on this box that intrigues you?
I was asked. It's one of these Queen for a Day stories. Shad Northshield, the legendary person who helped begin Sunday Morning, called me up out of the blue. I didn't know him. He said, I've got a job for you. You're going to do it. You're going to love it. And I thought, wait a minute. Who are you? And he talked me into it. And I thought, goodness, I don't think I can do this. But I am someone who does like taking risks, and it intrigued me very much. And I've now been with Sunday Morning for 10 years, and I consider it one of the great blessings of my life, because not only is working with Charles Kuralt and all the other people at Sunday Morning enormously wonderful, but it is a tremendous gift to be able to sit across from some of the great musicians of our time, like Segovia, Isaac Stern, etc., and be able to talk to them.
And they talk to you because there is a mutual respect.
At least they know I'm not going to ask some kind of silly question. They know that I know what it is to get out there and kind of publicly risk your life.
What is it to get out there and publicly risk your life, particularly at a time when maybe you just don't feel like it, and you're standing up there in front of an audience who's very excited to see you?
I think that it's... one has personal standards, and one of the great freedoms of getting older and maturing is that when I get on the stage, I no longer have those concerns about will they like me, how's my dress looking, all those things you have when you're 20, or will the critics like me. It's really about the music itself, and what you really try to do or hope to do is communicate the emotions in the music. There are, of course, in any job, those days when you feel, oh, I have to find something in myself to be able to get out there. But it's always, one is always aware of the risks. There is no place that is not an important place to play. You want to do your best always.
What are the challenges ahead in a musical vein for you?
I want to keep playing and growing at the level which I feel is right for me. I find the tremendous irony about being a musician is that you really, really get good at it and feel yourself getting better at it just at a point where you know that, it's not going to continue forever. And I want to deepen my understanding of the flute music, and I want to learn as much of the rest of the 20th century repertoire and just keep playing.
Are you a severe critic of both your music and your writing?
The worst. the worst. And, you know, I'm rarely satisfied.
And your husband? Now, do you show him the drafts of your book?
He is the best critic, the best person. He is someone who really has, I think, a gift for imagination as a writer that no one else I have known does. And he is terrific at pointing things out for me, story-wise, etc. I couldn't imagine having life without his voice reading something I write.
You hear that old ad, which is really a cliche now, you're not getting older, you're getting better. I really believe it. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Come back.
I'd love to.
Stay with us for more of Nightwatch.
Some people take risks that can lead to a heart attack or stroke. Risks like smoking and ignoring high blood cholesterol and doing nothing about high blood pressure. Combine 2 or 3 of these and your chances are even worse. Why take chances? Quit smoking. Lower your cholesterol and watch that high blood pressure. That heart attack or stroke may never happen.
You must remember this. It seems like yesterday. You watched your family grow through happy times, rewarding times. You've worked hard to create a life filled with rich memories. Now that you've reached the golden years, you should have the health and vigor to create new memories. Exercise helps your heart, muscles, and mind stay strong. This is Van Johnson. Check with your physician first and exercise regularly for yourself and those you love. Fitness is feeling great.
I know he's out there, somewhere, the man of my dreams. I wonder if I'm ever going to get the chance to find him.
Join the National Singles Club, an exclusive national network of serious and selective singles committed to finding quality one-on-one relationships. Call 1-900-820-3111. We may already have the name and phone number of the man of your dreams. Call 1-900-820-3111. $3 per minute.
Special people for special people. 1-900-VIP-DATE. 95 cents a minute, $2 first minute. Adults only. Call now.
By day, Emilio Cueto is a corporate lawyer for an international bank. But several times a year, he changes into something completely different. In fact, he changes into many people. They are all characters in his one-man show about the people and the culture of Cuba. There are more than 20 characters in all, and Cueto even tackles Fidel Castro.
Jamás necesitaremos la fuerza de las armas, porque tenemos al pueblo. Y además, porque el día que el pueblo nos ponga mala cara, nada más nos ponga mala cara, nos vamos.
Emilio Cueto is with us. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome, Mr. Cueto.
Thank you very much.
You have the best of all possible worlds. You have the tie, shirt, button-down life of the corporate lawyer, and then you can just go crazy and really say what you want to say behind those characters. I have a feeling that you play those characters because you have a very important message to deliver.
I do. It's a message of reconciliation of a people which is divided. It's a message that invites to reflection, to our past, so that we can look to the future with a clear understanding of what happened and how we can avoid past mistakes. It's a message that does it, hopefully, in a gentle, yet strong way, funny, yet reflective, so that the message can get across. Because otherwise, if it comes on too strong, people just cannot take it. It's reality. Sometimes it's so hard to accept that you have to sort of dress it up a little bit.
Describe those two communities that are so at odds with each other that you're trying to bring together.
Well, we have first the community in exile, which is hurt by what's happened, has been deprived of its homeland for many years. It cannot understand how situations in Cuba reached such a level that we had to emigrate. And on the other hand, you have the community in Cuba, which remained there, which struggles very hard to make a living and tries to also understand why some of us have left and why Cuba has reached the level of sad situation in which it finds itself today. So we have two groups that look at each other with suspicion, with misunderstanding, and I'm trying somehow to bridge that gap.
And it's all filled with joy and guilt and all the wonderful Latin temperament that must make it such a challenge.
It is. It's the medium of my play. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of looking at yourself and laughing at yourself. It's part of our culture, although recently it's when you're hurt, it's hard to look at yourself and laugh. I think Americans have a better tradition at laughing at themselves.
We're losing it. We're in trouble.
I know.
We're really losing it.
But I remember very well, years ago, a fellow had come in Mariel boat lift, and we went through Washington Square Park in New York, and we watched a statue of George Washington with a hula hoop around it. And he sort of said, how can they do that to George Washington? Somehow in our culture, there's some myths that are untouchable. And I think what I've done in my play is to touch those myths.
Well, let's look at a little clip from part of your one-man show so we can see what you do.
Our little sister Cuba rebelled against old Spain, all that treacherous old pirate that blew up the warship Maine. Our little dark-eyed fairy has made a secret plan. And she made a low and very low-legged Uncle Sam. Our little sister Cuba appeals to us for aid, and Uncle Sam should be a man and draw his trusty blade. Our little sister Cuba should not appeal in vain. In name of God and freedom, strike down the tyrant Spain.
You're an incredible Statue of Liberty. Incredible. What does La Cuba de Antier mean?
It's a pun which is very difficult to translate into English. Cubans in exile have created a myth out of the Cuba of yesteryear, and it's also written in capital words, La Cuba de ayer, which means yesterday's Cuba. And of course, it's a Cuba without racism, without trouble. Everybody was happy, and it only exists in the minds of a few people, or actually of a lot of people. Antier is a very Cuban word, means the day before yesterday. So the title itself suggests a pun and a joke, and that I'm going to go beyond just yesterday and go to the very beginning. So my show starts, with the conquest of Spain into Cuba.
Do you think in your act, within the next 10 years, you will be dealing with the problem of all the Cuban exiles, particularly the successful exiles, many of them in Florida, who have talked about going home and going home and going home, and all of a sudden there is the freedom and the liberty to go home, and everybody's saying, wait a second, maybe I'll get the next plane, maybe I'll take the next boat, maybe I won't go.
Yes, I think that's certainly what I envision happening. And my show being modular, I can always add and take things as it goes along. As a matter of fact, I've changed it considerably, not considerably, but a few things that I've added to it, which I think they are appropriate from the first time I did it.
And when freedom comes to Cuba, are you going to go back?
I certainly will do my very best to go back to, and I'm free enough, I think, to go back. I don't have any children, which will tie me to this country or to another place. And I think I would like to give my country a few years of that I have remaining for a deeper understanding of the two communities, because no question, the exile or the immigrated community, because we're immigrants now, will always play an important role in Cuba. And I like to be able to I speak, I think, to both communities more than other people may, and I would like to be able to bridge the differences and the gaps.
We hope you can.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Stay with us for more of Nightwatch.
Yo
America's exciting love lines. 3 great ways to meet by phone, and you can try them right now for free. For ladies' home phone numbers, call 1-900-646-0004. Try it free. To meet guys and gals, call 1-900-646-0005. Try it free. For dream dates, call 1-900-646-0006. Try it free. Try all 3 for free. They're America's exciting $15 love lines with the first minute free. Write these numbers down and try them now. Try them all. Try them absolutely free. Adults only.
I'm here in this auto graveyard to demonstrate New Finish, the once-a-year car polish. Simply wipe it on and wipe it off. There's no rubbing, no buffing. Look how New Finish restored a deep, hard shine to even this weather-beaten old car. Next, we polished this car with New Finish and ran it through 52 car washes. After all the harsh detergents and scrubbing, the water still beads. So get New Finish, the once-a-year car polish.
New Finish, available at Kmart, Walgreens, Sears, Western Auto, Ace, True Value, and other leading stores.
I'm Greg. I'm in television production, and I love romantic evenings. I'd like to meet a woman that shares my interests, especially on commitment.
Is this the kind of single guy you'd like to get to know? Call the National Singles Club, a private network of selective singles seeking exclusive one-to-one relationships that could lead to more. Call 1-900-820-3111 for names and numbers. 1-900-820-3111, $3 per minute.
They're America's exciting love lines. 3 great ways to meet by phone, and you can try them right now for free. For ladies' home phone numbers, call 1-900-646-0004. Try it free. To meet guys and gals, call 1-900-646-0005. Try it free. For dream dates, call 1-900-646-0006. Try it free. Try all 3 for free. They're America's exciting $15 love lines with the first minute free. Write these numbers down and try them now. Try them all. Try them absolutely free. Adults only.
They're called the Lost Generation, the Baby Busters, those who were born between 1961 and 1971. By many accounts, this post-baby boom generation is struggling. They apparently feel the older baby boomers have taken all the good jobs and all the good real estate. They have trouble leaving home, finding careers, and committing to relationships. They are angst-ridden, a bit bitter, and their chief talent seems to be the ironic aside. Writer Douglas Copeland describes their dilemma in his first novel called Generation X, Tales for an Accelerated Culture. Douglas Copeland is with us. Doug, I have to tell you, I read a lot of books, and this is a real grabber.
Well, thanks very much, Betsy.
It tells me a lot about what I thought I knew and I didn't know. Explain Generation X to us, the great unwashed.
Okay. The Generation X, or the X generation, it is, I suppose you call it a splinter generation from the baby boom at large, which demographers say begins about 1945 and goes to 1965. That's more than 100 million people, and it's almost too much to expect everyone born in 20 years to share similar ways of thinking and seeing the world. And I've noticed through my own experience in talking to people, and I talked to a lot of people for research, that about 1957 or 1958, there's a real schism in the way the world is perceived. The earlier generation, I call them the Jane Fonda or Steven Spielberg generation of baby boomers.
The gee whiz, we can affect everything generation.
Certainly, yeah. They, and Joni and Woodstock and Peace and Acid, they see the world in the first person plural. It's a we generation, and we see it this way. And after about 57, 58, up to about 1970, after which you have a group I call the Benetton Youth, or the Young Republicans in Love, you have the X generation, which sometimes is called 20-something. I think that's a misnomer, because in a few years we're going to be mid-30-something, late 20-something. They're very much the individual generation. I refuse to say that we see the world this way, or us. That's not fair. I speak for myself and not for someone, Susan, who lives in Iowa City, Iowa, or Dave in Sacramento. It's very much, it's almost like the ultimate extension of what happens when you give people unlimited access to individualism. Do rights get confused for license? I'm digressing. Rope me in.
Okay.
Okay.
Some of what we said in the intro sounds like whining.
Oh, you know,
So I want you to set me straight. If whining is unfair, it's where's my piece of the pie? Where is this? Where is that?
I think what we're seeing is calling whining is maybe actually a birth cry or a birth pain. 2 years ago when I was selling the book, there was not even, 20-something was not even a word back then. And I encountered an extraordinary amount of opposition, even to the fact that this generation might exist. And I was very lucky in finding St. Martin's to publish the book.
But let me ask you something. Did your generation grow up without any barriers, boundaries, without any parameters? Were there not enough rules so that at least you had rules to break?
Unfortunately, there were no real rules to break. The rules had all been broken by then. So it was an arbitrary culture or no grounding. And it was a culture of divorce, pacer automobiles, Jimmy Carter, sorry.
What did my generation do to your generation?
Didn't
because
do anything. You didn't do
well,
anything.
I am the age of a parent of your generation.
Right.
So what did we do? And I refuse to say wrong because everybody does something different. But what did we do?
Oh, okay.
To create either the malaise or the search or the discontent or the uneasiness?
Oh, nothing. You just won the genetic lottery. You were born at the right time. That's all. And there's, I'm not bitter, and I don't think people are bitter. I'm actually optimistic, very optimistic about the future. It just, there is this awareness, there's this new awareness of this being a group, a separate entity. And it's like just waking up and, oh boy, this is our situation. And humans,
which is healthy.
Which is healthy. And humans being humans, of course, the tendency is to, complain a bit.
If you are not the make love, not war generation,
No.
and if you are not the drug generation,
No.
What is the defining characteristic of your generation?
I think irony, a tendency to make media-based jokes, Scooby-Doo jokes. When Scooby-Doo goes, hello? Like that. And we will find that perhaps amusing. And also, if I ask you a question, you give me a wrong answer, I'll go, like you just lost on Family Feud. And that's the way we format our world, because when our brains are being molded, we watch TV, and that's how we formatted it. Real inability to commit to relationships. I mean, I know people who've been going out for 10 years now and have just announced their engagement, and even then they won't be getting married for another 3-4 years.
Why does that happen? What are they afraid of?
Divorce.
Because their parents divorced?
Both their parents are divorced, and my parents are an anomaly. They're happily married, but most people I know have divorced parents.
But then I have to take you to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
When my parents did things that I didn't like, and the list was very long,
Mm-hmm.
I had the attitude that I was going to do things differently.
That's what they're doing, and that's what they're
I
doing.
wasn't afraid of it. I wouldn't shy away from a relationship because I'd seen all these relationships crumbling.
Yeah.
It was my world now, and the future was mine, and you did it wrong, but I did it.
And that's very much what's happening here, but their way of doing it correctly, the way I see it, is simply to not do it in the first place, or not commit until they're absolutely 100% sure. And even then, they're going to go to Reno and elope in almost a nostalgic, romantic sense.
Is there something sad about that?
No, I think it's very positive. I think the X generation, it's a curatorial generation. We're very much obsessed with stability. Oh, I said we. I take that back. I don't want to say we. I have noticed this tendency in a large group of people, and myself too, to be extremely concerned about stability, looking for even its semblance, if not the real McCoy. I think that explains the success of Ronald Reagan with so many American X-generation people. Clothing from the Gap and Banana Republic, which is generic, label-free, like clothing you might see illustrated in the dictionary. I noticed record collections. Most people who are X-generation are fanatic about alphanumerically encoding their record collection by style, genre, artist. And if you want to drive them nuts, you simply misfile one of their Clash albums and they'll go berserk. It's stability, order. There's the definite perception that unless this generation takes care of the world, then it's going to be lost, because the generation that comes after us, and that's just a generational conceit, doesn't seem too concerned about history or the past, and nor does the generation before.
I feel better about the future knowing that you care so much.
And
Will
you
stay
should. There
with
is a
us?
lot of concern. Yeah.
We've got to take a break. We'll be right back.
I like a guy who's not afraid to feel, the kind of man that makes me want to reach right out and touch.
I think masculinity is really very sexy.
I like thrills, excitement, and the kind of men my mother never liked.
What do women like? Call the all-new Secrets line at 1-900-820-2828 and hear what women say. Call 1-900-820-2828 and experience what women feel. $3 per call. That's 1-900-820-2828.
In tennis, the serve is the most important shot of all. Because it's how you start the game that counts. It's true in tennis, and it's true in life. Because in the game of life, there may not be a second chance. And babies whose mothers use drugs often have no chance at all. They can suffer strokes even before they're born. If they survive, they may be physically and mentally impaired for life. So if you're pregnant, please don't use drugs. Give your baby a clean start.
Where do we draw the line? This year, right here. With your help, Florida's tough new law can draw the drug war away from our children. Report drug activity near a school to Crime Stoppers.
Jobs telling people to buckle up?
Yeah, it seems just like yesterday.
Next. To buckle or not to buckle? Next.
The band.
Next. We are never going to find a safety belt spokesperson.
Let's get buckled!
Yeah, we've helped save thousands of lives.
But some people still don't buckle up. So let's hit it!
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
Case dismissed.
The verdict is in. Send for the free catalog with government information on money, health, federal benefits, and more. Write free catalog, Pueblo, Colorado, 81009.
Hi. The name of the book we're talking about is Generation X, and you might not have heard about it, but it is in its third printing. Surprise to the publisher, maybe surprise to the author, but it's great news because, Douglas, you just told me you wouldn't have to take a mech job because of this book.
job, that's right.
What is a mech job?
Well, I define a mech job in the book as a, let me get it correct, a low prestige, low dignity, low pay, no future job in the service sector, which is frequently considered a just wonderful career opportunity by people who have maybe never had to have one. The X presence is very strongly being felt in the workplace right now.
I hear a little bitterness in all of this because these are the college graduates who feel that the future is not only problematic, it's just downright difficult.
Well, it's a numbers game. There simply are more people ahead of them. However, I think that if...
But that's what life is all about.
I know.
My parents told me that they lived the great life.
Oh, again, I'm very positive. I believe absolutely it's still a meritocracy. And I think that the cream will always rise to the top. I don't think there's any doubt of that. I think that people have to play smart. They're going to have to maybe get over a lot of technophobia. A lot of people of this generation are still wary of technology. It's very much a Luddite or us-them relationship with it.
We had the 60s generation that told us when they were growing up that they rejected all the material things that we loved. And now we see that 60s generation driving around in their BMWs and grabbing as much material.
Isn't it ironic?
Is your generation a realistic generation, and are they going after, you say they're going after security. How much credence do they put on money? How important is money?
Money is important, and money is part of it. Right now, at large in the culture, there is a very powerful movement towards redefining and reinventing what it means to be middle class. And the X generation, all told, I estimate about 60 million people is going to be the bulk of that redefinition. It means downsizing your expectations of 2 cars in a garage to maybe 1 car on-street parking.
If those are your expectations, if those things are important to you, then it's very difficult if you're in your 20s to all of a sudden be downsizing your expectations. But you write this book and you talk about the haves. You're not really talking about the have-nots. There are a lot of have-nots in the Generation X.
It's composed maybe 90% of have-nots and maybe 40% of never-will-haves. And this is relevant only in the context that they were raised with the expectation of being a have for the rest of their life. And if there's any bitterness, that's where it does stem from. But it's not something to be bitter about. It's just the way the world is, and you expect it, and you accept it, and you go with it. You don't stop yourself. You don't let yourself be trapped into negative thinking. That's a bad thing.
It's a very bad thing to try to generalize, but if you could, the 60s generation certainly wasn't communicating with their parents. Is the Generation X, or the 20s, communicating with their parents, really communicating, really having a relationship?
They are really trying. I think they're very much trying. I think actually the 60s generation and what I call the Bob Hope generation actually had a good, healthy, lusty argument going on. It was really back and forth. The X generation and their parents, which I would say more the Lee Remick, Charlton Heston generation, there's an attempt to communicate, but it's, for some reason, the ways of seeing the world are still thinking. Those parents are oriented more towards print and newspaper, and this generation is simply more electronic and top 10 list oriented, and the sensibilities don't mesh. They would like to, and of course they have to, because so many of these people are living at home still.
Economic problems. You use movie actors to portray generations. Who are the movie actors who best portray this generation?
This generation, probably a combination of Michael J. Fox is one extreme. I think there's a musician right now called Michael Stipe, who's with a group called REM, who probably embodies the other end of that spectrum. There's Sandra Bernhardt, the comedian, who I think did a wonderful movie, which I think really caught the mood. And I think maybe Madonna, too.
Because of her freedom and her guts and
her guts.
And her
I mean, she's really. This is a generation that's very much concerned with just like just out with it. I mean, what are you trying to say? Be honest. It's not a sexist generation in the least. It will listen to all ideas. I think that politicians have a lot to look forward to with this generation, because they don't care if you, who you sleep with, what you do. It's what you think. What are you like as a person? And so there won't be this weird goldfish bowl relationship with the media in the future.
Again, with the caveat of it's difficult to generalize.
Yes.
What are the top 5 things that this generation wishes its parents had done with them, for them, to them?
That wishes? I think maybe if the parents had sat down at one point and said, number one, this is money, this is what it's all about, this is how it works, and you have to have it, and it's unrealistic to assume that you can't, and da-da-da-da. At least had made some effort to explain the way the monetary system works. Number 2, the nuclear presence is extraordinarily strong with the generation, and most parents refused to acknowledge it. I mean, they had problems with it themselves, and so there was this monster in your midst, and you're not allowed to acknowledge it. If they had said, hey kids, there's bombs now, we're not quite sure what they are, and in order to help this generation conventionalize it. Nowadays kids say, oh, let's nuke the popcorn, and nuclear war is bad for my career, and it's part of their life now, but we didn't have even these small rhetorical devices to conventionalize it in our life. 5, boy, we could go on here.
You working on another book?
Yes, I am. It's about those Benetton youth. It's coming out next spring.
Well, we'll look for it.
Well, thanks very much, Betsy.
Thank you very much for coming in. Stay with us for more of Nightwatch.
try them now. Try them all, try them absolutely free. They're America's exciting love lines. 3 great ways to meet by phone, and you can try them all right now for free. For ladies' home phone numbers, call 1-900-646-0004. Try it free. To meet guys and gals, call 1-900-646-0005. Try it free. For dream dates, call 1-900-646-0006. Try it free. Try all 3 for free. They're America's exciting love lines. You've seen them in newspapers, magazines, and on TV. Now, try them for free. Make that connection, meet that special someone. For love, for romance, and now try them for free. Just pick up your phone. For ladies' home phone numbers, call 1-900-646-0004. For guys and gals, call 1-900-646-0005. For dream dates, call 1-900-646-0006. Try them now, try them all, try them absolutely free. They're America's exciting $15 love lines with the first minute free. Call now, adults only.
I've been a reading teacher for over a generation and have used many methods. Then I tried a reading program called Hooked on Phonics, and the light went on. My students took to it immediately, and I was amazed at their desire to learn. Hooked on Phonics works because it is set to music and is fun to use. Take my advice. If there is someone in your life who has a reading problem, get Hooked on Phonics. It really works, and that's no blarney.
For information, call 1-800-ABCDEFG.
Hi, I'm Julie, an aerobic instructor who's tired of the dating game. I want a meaningful relationship with a guy who feels the same.
If you'd like to meet serious singles, join the National Singles Club, an exclusive network of selective singles looking for something more. Call 1-900-820-3111 for the names and numbers of the kind of singles you want to know. 1-900-820-3111. That's 1-900-820-3111. $3 per minute.
John Singleton is only 23, but he can play hardball with the best of them in Hollywood. On the basis of a good script, he walked into Columbia Pictures and got himself a deal to write and direct his first feature film. That film, Boys in the Hood, became a major draw at the Cannes Film Festival this year. The movie is set in the south central Los Angeles neighborhood where Singleton grew up, a neighborhood with problems.